Hey, welcome to the very special two-part edition of our Throne of Glass live show. Yeah, I just couldn't not turn down having more people talk about it, so that's why we're cutting this live show into this time. But yes, yeah, if you don't know, this is the Nostalgia Train Book Club where we talk about the mega hits in YA and middle grade books of the past, and sometimes if you'd missed out on them, you get a chance to read it, or you get to confront your own nostalgia bias. So it's a fun time for all. So yeah, Throne of Glass was this month's pick, and I was a first-time reader of this. So I only picked this for the book club because I had a poll and everybody voted for this. So this was the number 2 pick of everybody. Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw Casey's comment.
I kind of put it on there as a joke. I was like, I'm going to put a few books on there that I'm not interested in reading just to be fair. And then joke's on me because everybody voted for it. So yeah, I was a first-time reader with this. Came out in, I believe, 2012. So it was in the category of more of the newer end of books we cover. But yeah, that was my experience. Emily?
I am Emily. Am I meant to do an introduction? Sorry, I completely... Once the intro rolled, I zoned out and totally forgot what you said.
You have a YouTube channel? You have a book?
I have a YouTube channel. I do. It exists. There hasn't been content on there in a while. It's been, I think, for the last 2 or 3 years, it's only been the Worldwide Write-a-thon. But, there's that. I do also have a book out. I don't have the final version, but this is my book, which is a new adult dark fantasy. That's out and available if you are interested in that. I am a rereader of this. I think this is either my 3rd or 4th reread of this, actually, because I was obsessed with it back in 2012 when it first came out. And I was, God, how old was I in 2012? 16? Possibly 16, 17. I can't remember. So I was totally obsessed with this when it first came out. Reread, not so much. So,
Callum?
So I'm Callum. I do have a channel, Callum Writes, but it's currently videoless because I did delete the only vlog that was on there because the information became inaccurate very quickly. So I'm a rereader. I think I read this just before I started the series, just before Air of Fire came out. So I would have been 14, 15, so about 2014, where the big boom happened with this book. And it's not as fond as I remember. Spoiler alert. So yeah, very pretty covers. I will say that they do look great on a bookshelf.
That's the one piece of feedback that this series gets that I disagree with. I do love the covers, and I feel like the cover design is gorgeous.
Have you seen the original Throne of Glass cover with the picture of the
with
girl?
The face?
Yeah, the face. Horrible.
I think that was the American release, but in
and
Australia,
then they automatically changed it.
Yeah, it was not good. We never had that edition in Australia, though.
No, we never had it in the UK.
The spoiler banner, because here we can discuss spoilers for the books, but we're going to try... Well, they've read more in the series. I haven't. So I've asked them to try not to spoil the rest of the series for us. Hold on. We have people here. Casey is going to be on part 2 later. Hello. Crystal, I know didn't read this book, and I also know you didn't vote for this book. Hey, Cool Gamer. Yes, let's have a part 2 stream, or a book that no one read. These my book club live shows surprisingly get replay value. I don't know who's watching them, but
I will hold my hands up. I was rewatching the Twilight one the other day. Because I just
feel like
finished
I've
rereading
definitely watched it
Twilight,
as
and I was
well.
like, I had to go find everyone's opinions.
Yeah, surprisingly, because it's probably that people looking for reviews would find it, but I don't know. Michael is here. Michael did say he was going to read the book and then didn't, so shame.
Is it a shame though? Like he saved himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say.
And Emma's here from Pages and Paladins, and Anna is the other part of our second part 2 discussion later. So, do we, just want to jump into thoughts, or do we want to be constructive with banners and have topics? Like, we can do anything here. So,
Up to you. I think a little structure would be good. It would also save,
Yeah.
I think, from talking about spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is one of the peak ones, I feel, of the live streams. That Twilight one is something else.
I'm gonna have to
Okay.
go back and watch that one.
So, my first topic, I like to have a lot of times general topics around, genre and different writing styles. So I definitely wanted to just talk about high fantasy and specifically court fantasy, because that's kind of, I feel like, a subgenre all on its own. And I did not know actually I didn't read the blurb before buying this book and picking it for the book club. So I didn't know that this was a court fantasy. I had no idea what I was getting into. All I had heard that it was an assassin book. So I thought we were going to be like running around the streets, like killing people. And then I was like, oh, it's a girl going to a castle? Okay, that's not what I was expecting.
Quick about the blurb though, it's so bad. What is it? The two men love her, the whole land fears her, only she can save them all.
I think I've just avoided rereading it because I was like, I already know. But yeah, I don't know how much I agree with just even the like kind of main title thing on the back. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I do think it had, like, the first book the book club ever covered was Aragon. And I mean, at the time, it was marketed as also YA, but I would consider it now more like upper middle grade. But when you compare that as a YA high fantasy to this as a YA high fantasy, like, you're in two different ball games. Like, they're not, like, for tropes, yeah, like fantasy tropes line up, but like the writing style and content in there is very, very different.
The thing you'd say about that though is I'd say that Aragon, the prose is a lot more complex.
Which is hilarious considering it was written by like what, he was like 14 or 13 when he wrote
Yeah.
it.
Well, she did say, well, in an interview I read that she
was very
had
young,
came
I
up with the idea at 16
she
and
was
started writing it at 16, yeah.
Because it started as a Cinderella retelling.
I have a question about that. Is that why it's a glass castle? Because, like,
I think that's literally the only reason.
I didn't know, like, if it becomes relevant later in the story, it's like, oh, it's just a glass castle, and they never explain why. Like,
Well,
ever.
So she originally, from what I understand, don't quote me on this, originally posted this to Fiction Press back in the day, and it was called Queen of Glass. And the whole concept she had was it was about what if when the clock struck midnight, instead of running away from the prince because her dress was changing, it was because she'd murdered the prince.
That sounds like such a better premise than
Yeah.
what this book is. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
If she would have really leaned into fantasy or assassin Cinderella, it would have been cool, but she went a different way with it.
If she leaned into assassin at all, it would have been really cool.
But talking about the high fantasy aspect, because I'm assuming world building can come under this. Reading this the second time, I had such a hard time placing what this is. Like, because is it Renaissance? Would you say it was a Renaissance vibe? It's hard to place.
Yeah, there's no like concrete thing that I could find also that was anchoring it.
You can't place it. And
like the fashion doesn't mix.
Well, I'm trying so hard not to talk about the rest of the series, but one thing, okay, I have to do it. One thing that bugs me about all of her books is that they all wear modern underwear. And why? Why?
And the men basically
in a later book where she's wearing like a gold silk nightie, like literally like a short, like 90s style sexy nightie. And I was like, how, in what fantasy fucking medieval world where there's no technology and we have fucking castles and knights and shit. Is this good?
I would say though,
That was
I do.
one thing that's like number one on my list of like, why the fuck did she do this for all of her books?
We were saying back.
This is why I asked about the swearing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were saying backstage how this was kind of the first big YA high fantasy, because I think up until this point it had been a lot of urban fantasy, if I'm thinking, because it was a lot of like Cassandra Clare and all that.
Yeah,
And I
this
think-
would have come out like after Twilight, after Hunger Games, so it was like after the paranormal and the dystopian boom.
Yeah, and I think
this came out about the same time as Infernal Devices started.
yeah, and the second part of the Mortal Instruments.
Yeah, so Cassie Clare had already kind of had her big upswing and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah,
and I do think this book is part of the reason we've kind of seen the reverse happen in YA now, in that it's a lot of high fantasy and then urban and paranormal fantasy is pretty much non-existent. Like this, I feel like was kind of the first domino to fall with that, and because of how well this did, YA shifted its market.
Well, like I feel like high fantasy as a genre on its own is like very evergreen. Like it's one of those genres that's always cool. Like,
and this book hits it both: high fantasy and romance. Neither of them are going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it definitely has that. So it's always going to have a readership, even like if it is how it is.
I do wonder.
There's a 14-year-old out there who's ready to fall in love with this.
This did get. Speaking of that, it just this book kind of, and if there's any Chronoglass lovers, this isn't a bad thing, but it feels like the keeping up with the Kardashians of the YA world, in that I don't get it now, but I can see why it had the hype that it did.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Is it intellectual? No. But it does have that kind of almost that Gossip Girl-esque
it's a gateway
to it. Yeah.
It's literally it's the gateway drug to higher fantasy.
I think so too. I think it is kind of a gateway book. That's exactly what I was thinking about it. I was reading this. I was like, okay, you
like,
read this and then you go on to adult fantasy. This is like for
reading this, and then like I had already seen the Lord of the Rings movies and was already obsessed with the movies and everything. But reading this and then learning about Sarah and knowing that she was obsessed with Lord of the Rings and stuff then made me want to read the books. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to like read Lord of the Rings. Have I done it? No, I've read The Hobbit, but
well, she's openly admitted
the other one.
her fairies are not fairies.
No, they were meant to be
elves.
Yeah.
But she just wanted elves with magical powers, so she named them fairies.
Yeah. She wanted to do elves, but she didn't want to change them from the Lord of the Rings type of elves, so she made them fae. And that annoys me so much because I have elves. Like my book is elves; it's high fantasy, and I was like, just change them. They're fantasy creatures. You can make them whatever the fuck you want. Like So yeah, my elves, I guess, are similar to her fae, but they're just, functioning creatures. I don't know.
Sorry. Speaking of this being a gateway to adult fantasy, there was parts when I was reading this, so I was like, if she just aged the characters up, a lot more of this would be believable.
Yes.
Like, I cannot believe that Selena is this feared as an assassin at 17 years old. I'm sorry, 17-year-olds, they do a lot of things, but are they that, like, I know we've got 12-year-olds famous on TikTok, but this is completely different.
But also, like Hale
I just
is
don't
like,
see it.
And he's the captain of the guard. I was like, what the fuck? What did he do to deserve that?
He's 20?
Like,
I thought he was younger than that.
20. No, he's at least, it's not an appropriate age, but he's at least an adult.
Well, no, technically it's fine because she is 18 in this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's 18, which at that point, is it YA?
Yeah. I think 18 is the cutoff. Like, even like some people can get away with 19 for YA.
I would agree with that as well. I think it depends on the writing
Yeah, or if you have like also even if you're a debut, if you have like a hot enough pitch, you can get away with 19.
But in saying that, Feyre in Court of Thorns and Roses is 19 as well. So she really kind of keeps them at that like cusp age.
But it's the fact that she's only 18, or technically 17, because she wasn't doing anything of worth down in those salt mines, and yet she's this world-renowned assassin.
Yeah.
If you'd captured a world-renowned assassin, why was she not executed?
Yeah.
Like, but then I think there's a lot of just logic issues in this book that I picked up in the reread, which I don't know
for
if
sure.
like. So I mean, this isn't technically the high fantasy topic, but I've got to mention it so I don't forget. Sorry. So they cancel the competition for the week when Nox leaves. Yeah, every time a competitor gets murdered, it's still fine to go ahead. There's not an issue with numbers at that point. Like, I don't understand that standard.
Yeah. But also, I forgot there was a competition. I completely forgot that was an element of the book.
Boring.
It's
like
so
the
boring.
challenges
it's so badly
are
written.
so boring.
Wait, I just want to talk about the pacing for a second. We're bringing up this championship because that's the blurb of the book. She's going to be the king's champion. So and like I said on my cover, I posted on the Discord that they had somebody had left a thing comparing it to the Hunger Games, and I was like, oh, okay, it's like fantasy competition, but it's like it's so not a big part of it, and especially when you talk about pacing. It's so much like, oh, we're gonna get there, and then the competition's gonna start. Oh, just kidding. That's just us introducing you to the king. But the real competition is starting tomorrow. Oh no, just kidding. That's just you meeting the trainer. Oh, but it's gonna start the next week. Oh no, just kidding. That's just like, a dress. Like it kept always getting pushed back, and then when it finally started, then it was like, oh, and then we skipped then the third and fourth test happened. And it's like, what? You just skipped two? Like we had all this buildup for nothing? Like.
It's also the fact of I feel like a lot of the interesting stuff happens either off the page or in a flashback.
Yes, I agree.
Like all the like the most interesting part on the reread was her whole thing with her master. And
yes.
That's all I care about. I literally don't care about anything else that's happening. Yeah.
Like the master, her old master, he seems like such an interesting character. But we get nothing with it.
Yeah. I want to lose it so bad right now and talk about the rest of the series.
Yeah,
you have no idea how much I'm holding it in because that element is still so frustrating later on.
And I think also my biggest issue with the championship is that they were such mundane tasks. The only task that was at least a bit spicy was when they were climbing up the castle.
Yeah, and even then it was like, why not make this harder? Why not have guards at the top throwing shit down at them, or like have people coming out of the windows, or like, but also like, why the fuck is climbing up the castle important? Like all of the tasks were so mundane. It was like, take him to a cliffside and get him to climb up the side of a fucking cliff. Why is everything happening in the palace? Like,
see, I feel like the most obvious comparisons because of the contest aspect is either Hunger Games or Goblet of Fire.
True,
and the thing that both of those things do is they make the tasks or the arena interesting. In this, it is such just mundane things. Like the first task is just archery.
Yeah, so
but like in those both examples that you mentioned, like those were like big spectacles for the public, and this was like a secret. Like only in the know people kind of knew that this championship was going on. Like there's people in the castle who had no idea about it. Like what? What was that?
And then there was like this. The crowd was like this, and it's like, how? Wait, who's the crowd? When
is it a secret or not? Like what is this?
But then this is a whole issue I have with it logically. So the king's looking for a new assassin, so he goes to his group of followers to go find him champions. But surely if you want a new assassin, you don't want anyone knowing who that person is.
Yeah.
What if like
yes. But also if you already know that you've locked away the best assassin in a salt mine, would you not just be like, I need a new assassin? You know what? I'm just gonna go grab that chick I locked up because she was great. But also there's a whole fucking assassin, like, a tower or whatever that's full of assassins. Why didn't you just hire one? Fucking mercenaries would be everywhere. Just hire one. Like, I don't. The whole
No, the
competition
logic
element
is
of it
really
makes
not
no
there
sense.
when you when you try to start lighting it up. We've
Yeah.
already confused Crystal. To be fair, I didn't know that this was her first book, Sarah J. Maas. Like I had known her name like as a so not celebrity author, but a big name author.
Mhm.
And I had to go look and find, okay, where does this start? Oh, okay, so you used it as a gateway. It works.
Mhm.
What? Oh. I'm so bad at like reading comments. Elves and fae are interchangeable. Oh. Ooh.
Is why does Dorian have to be captain to her guard? Do you mean Kale?
Kale? Yeah. I think it made sense. Agree with Kale. My issues with all her books. Age was weird. Yeah. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Michael's just
God.
trolling. Would also love your thoughts versus Akatar.
I mean, it depends what kind of thoughts you want here, like which is better, because I would say Akatar is better.
Yeah, on a
but I
technical
still
level.
wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, on a technical level, because she was like 6 books in after,
Yeah.
or like what, 4 or 5 books in.
The plot is
before
tighter
Avatar
and more
came out,
consistent.
so
And it's a
yeah.
more true retelling, whereas this, like, people kind of said it was a retelling and it's not, but you definitely feel Beauty and the Beast over there. Like, I also didn't read the blurb going into that, and I was like, is this Beauty and the Beast retelling? Like,
The thing I
That's
will
the
say
only
about
reason I read it.
the thing I will say about Akatar is I think the reason Akatar's better is because she's clearly playing to her strengths in that book. In that it
she
is more a fantasy romance. It's not
Yes,
trying
she
to be
needs
this
to
epic
just-
high fantasy.
Yes, and this is my. Oh, we're not. I know too much of her shit. Like, I can't. It's really hard for me to not talk about everything else. But I honestly think she just needs to focus on the romance stuff, because that's what she's good at writing. Like, she's good at writing romance. I'm not going to say they're healthy romance, but you know, they at least get the job done, if you know what I mean. So, you know, the rest of it is just not. She can't. Her plots are never really that great. Her character work, honestly, really not that great. A lot of them are, you know, copied and pasted into other series or even within the same series. You know, the pacing is usually not great either. The pacing of this book's fucking terrible. Whoever edited this book, or like, they should be fired, because chapters 1 to like 4 should have been one chapter. Why the fuck was that split up into 3?
honestly, when I first started reading the book, like the very first page, I was like, "Oh, why didn't we just cut?" I literally was like thinking with a red pen. I was like, "Well, that's a dumb opening line. Skip down, have this be the opening line. Okay, we can cut this line out here. We can move this." And I was like, "I shouldn't be thinking of that of like this really successful book." Like,
I mean, if we're talking
Yeah,
about
exactly.
cuts,
So bad.
I mean, only Emily can really answer this one. But do you not feel the series could have just started at Crown of Midnight?
I'm usually really good at remembering books.
But
This series, I cannot fucking remember anything
like
that happens
this
in the first
book,
like 3.
well, because my issue with this book rereading is it's so inconsequential.
It feels like a prequel. Like, it should have been extra stuff that came in at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know how
Yeah.
she brought out like all those, the novella anthology?
Yeah.
That's what this should have been. This should have been part of that. And I agree, it should have happened after all of this crap had happened. And then I wouldn't even say Crown of Midnight. I would say Heir of Fire should have been the first one. And it should have been like a 4-book or 5-book series instead of like the 7 that it is.
well, like I could just make like a guess like where I think the series is going, because like they kind of introduced the idea of like magic not being in the world, but it's like kind of still in the forest. And I kind of thought, oh, is that where the series is going? Like reintroduce magic into the world? Is that the
Pretty much.
am I on
Yeah.
the right direction?
Yeah.
Speak.
But also
speak
there's a bunch of other random
Yeah.
fucking twists
Okay,
and
okay.
turns in the way that make these first like 2-3 books completely redundant.
Speaking of plot, the whole murder mystery, it's so obvious. Like, there's no mystery to it. There's no
Yeah.
plot twist. It's very clear who it is, and I don't understand how that made it past editing.
I don't understand how the whole book made it past editing, honestly.
But that's meant to be your like big plot twist of the book, and it's pretty clear who it is.
But like also like how you kind of said like, oh, they just went on with the test and everything, and it's like not only that, it's like nobody seemed bothered by it. Like everybody just like walking around like, yeah, people are dying. It's cool.
Yeah, no one fucking cared. Like this book makes me so angry. It's hilarious to think that I used to love it so much. Like it was my life for a long time, and I just it almost like it hurts sometimes, you know, when you go back and you read something that you used to love so much, and you're just like, wow, this was terrible.
I'm way behind in the comments. Anna says, there is tension in Hunger Games because we feel like Katniss could lose at any moment. We never engage in Throne of Glass because we already know that Selena will win.
Yes,
Yeah.
because she's so amazing and she's so great. She's the most beautiful and she's perfect. She could do no wrong. She never gets hurt. She's never in any danger because she's just so great.
Oh, I
Did
have
any-
a question about this though, because that was like a big critique I had. Like, what were Selena's flaws? Because I saw like in an interview that Sarah J. Maas said her flaws were supposed to be like she's vain and she's impatient. I was like, I don't think she's either of those things.
The only flaw that I would say is that she has some anger problems because she snaps a cue when she's trying to learn how to play billiards. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah,
Like, if she had flaws, they're not utilized in the plot.
definitely not.
But did anyone else rereading this? I was getting like discount Buffy vibes from her, and like because I think she was trying to avoid that I'm not like other girls critique to her, because she's like, oh,
But
I'll
this
make
is
her
like
girl.
peak, I'm not like other
Because she was like, oh, I'll make her girly and like dressing up in dresses.
Yeah.
But she still hated other women, so it's like that's actually what my page markers are, like all the anti-feminist rhetoric.
Oh my god, that was the thing that drove me the most insane in the first 3 chapters was like, she's fucking filthy, disgusting. She's been in the mines. She's talking to a prince, and the first thing she's like is like, I wish I was dressed better. I was like, are you?
Yeah, but
kidding
then later
me?
she goes out in that ugly dress like she doesn't care. So it's like that's so
Yeah.
she's so
And
inconsistent.
it doesn't fit her character at all, especially like knowing where the character goes does not fit at all. Like I was complaining about it to my partner, and I was like, in that moment, what would have fit her character when Dorian says, oh, you smell terrible, I was like, it would have fit her character more if she peed herself, like right there in front of him. That would have been more.
I want to read that book. That sounds better. That's why I always love doing these book club discussions are to be done with other writers, because they give gems like that of how to fix it.
It's also the fact that she bounces back from malnutrition so fast.
She has no trauma from being a slave,
fucking
like
pull-ups
none.
and shit.
The only thing is, I feel like this is the only YA book I've read that has any mention of a girl having a menstrual cycle.
Yeah, that's in my notes. Yeah.
That yes, and that yeah, I appreciated that, but also what a fucking drama queen. And I say this as someone who has intense, horrible, like suspected endometriosis, but oh my god, what a little wuss.
This is the thing.
Like,
she had the issue with
you've been
that.
dealing with it for so long, your pain tolerance, like you develop a pain tolerance, and it doesn't like you can function with it. But also, she's an assassin. Surely she can take a fucking hit. Like she would have been stabbed a couple of times. Like,
Yeah.
period. I'm pretty sure would not be.
Can like beat somebody to death with a pickaxe in the mine and like learn a whole new language while she's down there. But
oh, she fucking beat someone to death with a pickaxe, right? And then the first time she sees one of the other contestants killed, she's like, oh, I wanted to throw up. It's like, What?
It didn't make any sense. Like, also, like, her, like, empathy towards the puppies. Like, what? You're an assassin. I don't get this. I didn't get it.
Oh god, it just makes no sense. And
That's like what, like you said before, like flashbacks to her, like, assassin training. That would be a badass book if she was like flashing back to her, like, as a child being put through all these tests. But every time she talks about her training, it's always like, oh, I was the best, or I had the best, or I got the really great. But it's never like, this fucking messed me up, like, as a person.
Well, she's talking like
Like,
she's
I want to
complaining.
hear about like the fails that got her to the point where she is, and there is nothing.
I mean, I've never had a period, but I'm imagining that her having her hand broken so that she can become ambidextrous would be a lot more painful.
Yeah, it fucking would.
And the fact that she
Like-
was left up on rooftops for hours on end to get over her fear of
Yes.
heights.
Yeah, and like I said, I have terrible menstrual pain, like to the point where I've almost passed out in a shop. I've started bawling my eyes out because it hurts so much. I've fainted from the pain. Like, I understand painful menstrual cycles, but you really do at a point get used to it, and you can still function to a point. Like, yeah, some days are going to be worse than others, but like the way that she was acting was like, you know, like your first period. It's like she's never, I mean, it does say that she hasn't had a period for the whole time she was in the mines. So I can
Yeah,
understand coming back and being painful, but to the degree that she was saying, it's like you were just starved for a year. You've been working
Yeah.
in a mines while malnourished, while, you know, this would not be anything near that. Like, you've experienced worse. If anything, I would have liked it for her to have been like, oh, I got my cycle back. Yeah, it's painful, but this is fucking nothing compared to when I was starving in the mines,
Yeah.
having to, you know, claw my way through
Yeah.
rock to produce whatever. You know, like, it just...
Or even better to say, like, yeah, I say that and then say, I wish I could take the day off to recoup, but I can't, you know, I have to be, you know.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think Selena
exactly.
she's just a character full of hypocrisy. Because, like, maybe I'm misremembering this, but when she first goes to the palace, doesn't she oil the hinges on the door? Or maybe I'm misremembering that.
I think it, if I remember from the chat, someone said that she makes them make more noise.
Yeah, she
to
makes them
be
so they
clear when
make
open.
no noise, and yet everyone's sneaking up on her in that bedroom.
Yeah, she's the worst fucking assassin ever. She's fucking jumpy as shit. She, like, everyone knows when she's coming. Like, God, yeah.
Yeah, this is true. Just making her like dresses was supposed to be her being able to get away with saying some.
See,
Because they still made Keltane like
the
the mean girl, the bad girl, like
mean girl, exactly. See, I kind of did this similar thing in my own book, where like my character, she's you know, elven princess, but she's like a warrior princess. She's fucking jacked as shit, but she's also like, this dress is really pretty, but like she's jacked as shit. It's not like Selena, where like she's lean and skinny and thin, and then she has her pretty dresses and she likes the pretty dresses, and then, you know, she acts like a lady. My character's like fucking, I don't know, kind of
yeah, that's the thing, is you can definitely do it, but you have to do it in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. Like,
So something I don't want to like jump forward, but this love triangle, was it ever a competition?
Banners with you guys.
Was it a competition? Because there's there's an obvious answer of who's the better pair there. Because I mean, I love a himbo as much as the rest, but Kale, there's no chemistry there. He's also the fact that he's a creep, because I didn't pick up on this the first time I read it. But I think it's after the Christmas ball, and then Dorian and Selena are in the bedroom and they kiss. Dorian leaves. Selena looks out the window out to the garden, and Kale's just down there watching.
Oh yeah.
I don't even remember that. I've blocked
Serial
that
killer
out.
moment for sure.
Yeah. And
It's
I'm like,
really creepy and weird. And I'm like, what? Like, to bitch about Sarah J. Maas again. Okay, I shouldn't have done this. This is a bad idea, because this always happens every time I start talking about her.
I mean, I think we're all
in every single series where she sets up that like, oh, this could be a poly relationship, and then no, they pick one, and it's like, why? Like, I understand at the time when this came out, she couldn't have done that. But also, it's like, don't set it up like that. Like, actually have it play out like they're competing, I guess. Like, it's just a really poorly written love triangle. Because I love love triangles. I think they're fucking great. But this was so bad.
It was so flimsy.
Yes. And it's like, oh, they both like her and she likes both of them. But she doesn't know which one she wants to go with. But they're also not, like, trying to get her attention over the other. They're just like, oh, I can see you're interested. I'm also interested. But I guess we'll just avoid it. It's fine. It's fine. It's like,
I mean, my honest
why?
opinion is that both Kale and Dorian should say, you know what, Selena, not worth it. And then they should run off into the sunset together, because I think that'd be a better couple, a better story.
I think my issue is I'm also currently reading the third book in the Dark Artificers series by Cassandra Clare, and that does have a throuple in it. So it's like, this is a really good, well done, kind of starts as a love triangle, then becomes a throuple kind of storyline. And it's written so well that reading this at the same time was like, I would have gouged my, well, I was listening to it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it just.
I mean, we have to again remember it's 2012. Just having a female-led YA fantasy was what it was allowed to do.
Yeah, actually the high fantasy as well.
But,
like, it's such a tricky genre to kind of write in.
But then also, if with that argument, you also can use that against it, in the sense it was 2012 and there was a lot of things that she could have done that she didn't. In terms of, there was like, I mean, I know representation in YA has only really gotten decently good in the last few years, but at least in 2012 it was a lot better than what she was depicting. Like, Nehemia is the only character of color that has any substance in this first book, if I'm correct.
Yeah, she's the only.
I was also even wondering if she was the only character, just because, again, like how you guys we talked backstage, some of her descriptions were so like, how does this person look? Like, I was a little bit confused.
Nehemia has two guards. That's it. It's the two guards and Nehemia. That's it. And you never hear anything from the guards except a couple of times where I think they laugh or something, and that's it. And that's for basically the whole Throne of Glass series. Except for there's, I guess, Tower of Dawn. There's kind of something, but like,
yeah, but then
it's a spin-off. So,
but also that was what, 5 books later. So that was 5 years later that it took her to remedy that issue that people had pulled up with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than being an assassin, I was she like that tomboyish, really?
No. I think that's where the Buffy parallels came for me.
Or they talked about her eating a lot, but like in the context that she had been starving. So it's like, but like that scene where it's like, I've never seen a girl eat so much. It was like, well, in context, it makes sense that she's eating a lot. It's not that she's like one of the guys, like.
Yeah, but also she's like working out every fucking day for a really, really long time. Like, of course she's gonna. I don't understand bringing up eating at all. Like in the kind of idea of like the character is physically, like, you know, kind of going through it. They're working out every day. They're doing a lot physically. Blah 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 blah. That the other characters are then like, oh wow, you eat a lot. It's like, she's
Like,
scaled a fucking castle. Are you kidding me? Of course she's gonna eat. What?
But then realistically, I don't think she would have been able to compete in that contest, because she, like we said, with the malnutrition bouncing back quite quick, she wouldn't have been able to do half that training.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, there was no trauma like shown from the mines. It's like she went from the mines, and like you would think she would have this big like culture shock getting back into a regular society after being a literal slave. Like,
yeah,
just it's not like she's even going to a regular place. She's going to like the castle, like royalty. This is even like one step above. Like, and she's like acting like nonchalant.
I think that's why, like, the line when she meets Dorian at the start bugged me so much, when she was like, I wish I had, you know, had time to pretty myself up or look better, or I was dressed better or something. It's like, this guy locked you in a mine You are a slave. Why do you give two shits what he thinks? That's why I was like, I don't understand this line of thinking, or like, it just.
Yeah, she also like at the beginning made a comment like, "Oh, I'm in the stone castle part, not the glass castle part." I'm like, in what universe are you picky at this point? Like, you just got out of
exactly.
slavery.
Also, how
Like, you're lucky to
realistic
have
is
a
a whole
fucking room.
how realistic is a whole castle made of glass? Like, I feel like there's
Yeah.
so many health and safety issues with this.
And that was like her whole thing was like, I'm scared of heights. I don't want to be in the glass side. It's like, what? You're an assassin. You
I
literally
was having a hard
can't be
time
afraid of
visualizing what a glass castle looks like.
The only thing I could think of is, in the old Wizard of Oz movie, the Emerald City. I was imagining that, but clear.
That's pretty much
That's
what
all
I
I could do.
saw as well. Because then you got to remember, there's like the tower out the back that's just made of like the obsidian kind of. Is it obsidian? I'm pretty sure it's described as
Yeah,
black.
that is obsidian.
Yeah. So it's like, is it? Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I'm so behind. I didn't even see that. Grape and Katie and everybody had stopped
Katie,
over.
I disagree. She shouldn't, because she can't. She doesn't know how to write it. I'm telling you right now, it would only disappoint.
But also
It
at the
really
same time, I know Cassandra Clare's gotten to do it, and Sarah J. Maas probably would be allowed to do it. But I don't think
She would
a
do it.
regular YA author would be allowed
But-
to do thruples.
Do you think like a Sarah J. Maas version of a thruple would be like a white bread sandwich with another slice of white bread in the middle?
Yes.
Yeah, but also it wouldn't be I don't
Exactly.
think it would be a true thruple. I think it would be a blonde hair, blue-eyed girl with two very handsome men. They don't like each other.
Yeah.
They're just getting the benefits
Yes.
of her.
Exactly.
That is what it would be.
It wouldn't be a thruple. It would be like a weird. Sometimes she's with this guy, sometimes she's with that guy. That's what it would be, because the guys would never be into each other. That would not happen. I don't think she's had a gay character.
She has, but
There's 8. Yeah, okay.
but also
Okay,
it's
she's bi.
yeah, a lot of it is very much it's just spoken. None of it's ever on page.
Yeah, but I think he's bi as well.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the same character.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? I did my video fixing the Hunger Games trilogy. I feel like you guys could do a fixing the Throne of Glass series.
I don't know if I can put myself through that. I honestly don't know if I
I
can put
had
myself
an
through
idea
that.
of how to fix, like, how to rewrite the whole series. It's in here. I just don't know if I can be bothered trying to make a video about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ironwood has.
But also, I don't want to deal with the backlash of that. I'm waiting for
See,
this
that-
every time.
that makes me want to
get on the street
read that
talking
book.
about Sarah J. Maas.
But in sci-fi, I feel like you see more thruples.
Yes,
I think with
agree.
sci-fi you can't really avoid it now, because sci-fi is meant to be the progression of humanity.
Yeah.
And because
you can
it has
get like
become
aliens, AI, like all fucked up crazy stuff. Like a thruple seems normal in sci-fi terms, and in fantasy can be harder if you're doing this like European medieval style fantasy.
Oh, something I did want to bring
Yeah.
up. Sorry.
No,
Yep.
you
Sorry,
go
I didn't want to. So obviously this is in third person, and we occasionally move to other characters. Did anyone else feel like the only reason we moved to other characters was for them to be obsessing over Selena?
Yes.
And to
Every
further
single fucking
project how
time.
awesome she is. Like, they had
Every
no
time.
storyline.
Except Caltaine when she's like giving away her plan, what she's up to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but then she also bitches about Selena. So, But I'm so happy that we're up to the writing style pros and POVs, because did anyone else? I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's because I'm like I can read third person, but it's not like my favorite. And I prefer first person. I think that's the only reason I like ACOTAR more than I enjoyed ACOTAR more than this, is because it was first person. But do you find her third person narration is too sentient, like within the story? Does that make sense?
It's a very close
Do you understand
third.
what I'm
It's a very
saying?
close third.
Yeah, it's almost like
I think
it's its own being and character inside what's happening in the story.
It does feel like it was originally written in first, moved to third, so that she could occasionally move to other people's point of view.
Yeah, that probably was it, because you can't
It does
hop
feel like that
POV
to
so
me.
easily in a first person.
But I will say, Crescent City, which I DNF'd after 300
Which does surprise
pages.
me, considering first person.
Sorry, where were you going with that one? Or do we have a delay? Maybe we have a delay.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me? Is it me?
Yeah, what are you guys saying? Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah,
I
we hear
thought
you.
Callum
Sorry,
was saying
I
something.
was just saying I'm surprised that she. Oh, I thought it was weird that if it was first person and moved to third, consider a person is the YA default.
Yes, I agree. At the time, it was the default, and I found that weird as well, especially because then Akatar was first person. But as I was saying, Crescent City is also third person, and again, it feels like the third person narration is like it's like a sentient being, and I hate it. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining it right. I because I don't write in third person, so I don't fully know like the lingo about like I don't know all the third person stuff. But it feels like almost like if like Ron was narrating Harry Potter. That's how it reads. And it's like why are you writing it like this? Like the third person narration is like
I
feels
maybe
like a
have a little
character
bit
on
of
the
a hot
side
take
that's
though on
just
the writing
watching it
style.
go down.
I didn't mind her prose. There was moments where I was like, you know what, I liked some of the prose, but then other times it was like exhausting. But I think part of it is because I normally am an audiobook reader and I read this with my eyes. So I was like, oh, that's a pretty word choice, or like that's a nice sentence structure. And then I would be like, okay, but every sentence is like this. Like then it was like almost exhausting to read. So I was very back and forth to like, I love this, I hate this, I love this, I hate this. I couldn't decide how I felt about it in the end. That's why I wanted to have it one of the topics to see what you guys thought.
I feel like sometimes there were really interesting word choices, but it would then be like a really long time before you got another interesting word choice. Like it was like, oh, this seems a bit boring at the moment. I'm gonna Google an interesting like synonym.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it just felt for me very. I don't mean this in a bad way, but it did feel very simple most of the time. And I think that is part of what made it so accessible. So in that case, it did do its job.
I think
But I
like the
think for
prose
me,
style was right at YA, like reading level wise. I think it was a
yeah,
good like for high fantasy, like
especially considering it was like one of the first of its kind. I don't think they wanted to
yeah.
push it too close to the adult fantasy prose level.
Yeah. It
And
was it
I
still
will give her
felt
credit
high
there. She
fantasy,
did.
but it felt YA.
Yeah.
What, Callum? Sorry.
And I mean, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I give her credit that she did make a. Because I think before this, I think they were scared to do proper high fantasy because it can be such an alienating genre. And she opened it up to a wide range of people. So I think there is some credit there to be given.
Yeah, I definitely think that's what kind of drew me into it because like definitely fantasy is the kind of stuff that I want. You know, I'm always been such a big fan of like mythology and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, fantasy is the next logical step. And I think with how accessible her writing style is, that's what really kind of pulled me in. I will say reading back on it after reading adult fantasy now, it feels very plain and very kind of like almost like she was trying too hard a little bit with some of the word choices and stuff. But again, reading it when I was younger, didn't think anything of it. I thought it was great. I thought it was, you know, amazing. It was easy to read. But then like I read The Hobbit like not long after, and it was kind of like, oh, that's better. I like that.
Well, I think though part of the reason that like high fantasy is like so convoluted a lot of times people think the prose like that is because the sentences are saying something with those words. Each sentence is putting different meaning or foreshadowing or little clues and world building into it. And this was just for the sake of writing. Like it wasn't like there wasn't anything
Yeah.
more to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Exactly. There's nothing to read into it, whereas
Yeah.
on other things, there's definitely more to it. Yeah, I will say, like, her
I,
foreshadowing and whatever else, terrible. Like,
Oh,
it's
no,
like
like
getting
what
hit
like
with a ton of bricks, you
when
know?
that
Like,
tapestry thing happened, like I was like, okay, maybe I'm kind of like getting into this. And then it's like all of a sudden, like I'm like, what is this scene? What's going on? Like what? What is this?
and it comes so
it's
out of
also
nowhere.
it's also just the thing of, I feel like because she went so simple and she didn't do what most adult fantasy does, it did feel like the world building just wasn't there.
Mhm.
Like we'd get
Yeah.
hints at it, but I don't feel like in this book at least, the world was fleshed out enough.
No.
Yes, you hear about the places you need to hear about, but you don't get anything extra.
Yeah.
Same as like the map that's in this book is so. It looks like it was made on like MS Paint or something.
Well,
I think
Oh,
if I
see,
go back
that's
and
not the
do it,
map that I have in my copy.
oh, do you have a different map? Because mine
yes,
looks
it's
pretty
Oh, no,
the
nice.
maybe
one
it
I've got
is.
online.
Oh no, that might be it. Yeah, it is. Okay, it just looked a bit different for a second, but it
But I
looked like
don't
such
think
a plain map.
it is. It's very plain, very plain.
Yeah, but it's almost like you don't need the map to be that big for this book. Like maybe these other places become relevant later, but really, she's only talking about this half of the map. I don't know.
I mean, I'm
Yeah, I think
shallow.
that's
I
the
like a
only
good map.
like. Yeah, I think the only reason you could like go into this book and be like, oh, there's gonna be like way more, is because of how big the map is. Like,
Yeah.
that's setting up that it's gonna go other places. Whereas, like, when you read it, you're like, okay, I guess we're in the castle. That's all we're getting.
Yeah, exactly. When you see a map like that, you think you're going to travel, and yeah, she just travels from the slave camp to the castle, and that's it. And then the other
Which we
things are
don't
just
really
referenced.
see.
Yeah, you just get reference to like where other people are from, and that's
The one time I will say that she like kind of complexed her prose up a bit is I felt like whenever she was describing some sort of like gory detail, she'd throw all the words in then.
Yeah, I think there's definitely elements like there's places where I can appreciate her writing, and I think it's also coming from a me having read on of her other stuff as well. There's definitely elements of her writing that I can appreciate that she does a good job. Description is one of them. I wouldn't say so much like setting description, but definitely like in the moment action, she's good, because
Yeah.
that's one issue that I have still with Cassandra Clare is her action isn't written well. I can't follow her fight scenes. Sarah J. Maas, I can follow her fight scenes. This fight scene, though, I feel like blended into one mess of something and I don't understand it. But Akatar, the fight scenes were very good in that.
yeah. I also think her dialogue is competent because I mean like well, you guys weren't here when we did Aragon, but like Aragon, it's like such a stark contrast between like the descriptions to the dialogue are night and day, and this at least it's consistent. Like I thought some of the little moments of banter between her and Dorian were really cute. So, and I
the
didn't
prose I would
really
say.
buy the romance in here, but there were some moments of dialogue that were.
Her banter is good. She's good at writing. That's why
Yeah.
like romance is her genre. She just needs to write romance because her banter is good. She's good at like kind of setting up the relationships and stuff. I will say some of her character work is not my favorite, but I'm very much a character reader. So I like really in-depth
Yeah.
detailed characters. So yeah, it's like there's kind of good and bad at like all elements of her writing, really. But I think her character voice is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump on something quickly because I meant to bring it up in the plot, but I forgot. Sorry. In the end, when she fights Kane and then beats Kane, and then Kane goes to kill her, but Kale steps in and kills him. How do people
Why
feel
was he
about
so
that?
broken up about that? Why
Yeah.
was he so broken up? He's the captain of the fucking guard. Are you telling
Yeah.
me he's never
Yeah.
had to kill anyone before?
Yeah, they even said that, like, oh, your first kill or something. I was like, how is that his first kill? What?
Why is he the captain of the guard if he's never fucking killed anyone? Like, what? Why? There's fucking 40-year-old seasoned warriors that are taking orders from a 20-year-old who's never fucking killed anyone. Are you shitting me? Like, I don't. I think. Oh, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. It makes I physically feel angry thinking about this. I've got to remember it's YA. It's YA, came out in 2012, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, she tried, I think, too hard with, like, I don't know, to make her characters feel virtuous. Like her, like, oh, I love
Yeah.
this little bastard puppy, and I'm so nice to this foreign princess, but like, fuck you, Keltane. But like,
I guess it was before the time of like everyone needs to be morally grey, which I mean everyone technically is morally grey anyway. That's just how people work. But
yeah,
it's
Dorian,
yeah, it
like,
was kind of
I
like
only want to
everyone
be
needs
with
to
somebody
be
for
serious.
love, but like, he's also a playboy. Like, I didn't get it. It didn't make sense.
Yes, that makes no sense.
I mean, it just. I did
could have made
kind of
sense.
like. Yeah. Like, this is the thing. There's a lot of potential here with the concept.
Yeah.
And I think adapted well, it could actually be a really good TV show.
Yes,
But you'd have to change a lot of things. No, the rights have gone back to her. It got optioned,
Yeah, I saw
but
that.
never got
I
picked
did
up.
see that. She made her
Okay.
money and then got her rights
Because
back.
originally Hulu was gonna do it, and then Hulu never did it, which is probably for the best because I can't think of something that's Hulu that was
Thank God.
amazing.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, Dorian and Nehemia, I do think were two very interesting characters that had more time been spent on them. Could have been.
Yes.
Nehemia doesn't get enough time as is, I don't think.
She gets
she's only
introduced kind
really
of late
there.
because she is in the blurb. That's like one of the things in the
Yeah.
blurb, like, oh, she gets to meet this princess. And then I was like, oh, when's she showing up? But she doesn't show up until like a good chunk into the book.
There was also so
like, the
much
main
at the
reason-
end of like
It's
nothing
very
after the
rushed.
battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very rushed, but there's also so much. Like I think also this book is tiny. Why is there over 50 chapters?
Because they're so small.
I don't.
When they could just be condensed into bigger
Exactly.
chapters.
Oh, see, I like the small
annoying.
chapters. Just when I have to read physically, I was like, okay, I'm ready for a break.
But it's like 400 and something pages. What is it? Literally just over 400 pages, and it's 55 chapters. My book is 507 pages, and I think 60 something chapters. But it's first person, and there's a lot of character POV changes. So that's why I have a lot. Whereas in this one, you're mostly following Selena, however you say your name, and it like the chapters are cut at the stupidest moments. Like, you can't get over those first 3 chapters being set in the same fucking room from the same character's point of view.
I'll give you that. I like small chapters, but these were also nonsensically split up. There was not a rhyme or reason.
No.
That's another reason that I don't understand how that particular aspect got through editing.
Exactly. That's my biggest issue is how these chapters were cut. It's almost cut like it's meant to be viewed like a TV show. You know, like this is the fade to black, and this is the ad break, and this is the
but they're not even like cliffhanger endings to chapters. Like if these were endings of chapters that were like,
introduction of
I gotta stop at this hot point, then I can get cutting your chapter. But it was like, okay, that's a regular sentence, and moving on to the same scene that we were just in. Okay.
it also so what I was going to say, it's also just the fact of it feels so choppy.
Yeah.
I think is the best word I can think of, is that it feels like chopping the chapters like in like the same scene. Because to me, I've been conditioned that like when I get to an end of a chapter, that's a stopping point. You can't do that, because then you feel like you're making no progress when you come back and you're still in the same scene the next day.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Cutting it in the middle of a scene is so awkward. It really, I feel like I'm the same. Like I've been conditioned that the end of a chapter is where you take a break, you pause,
Oh,
you go make
yeah,
a
but
coffee,
I
you go
think you
do
can
something.
do that in the same scene if there was like a big reveal or a big moment, like to give the reader like a time to breathe and then like pick up, like give the
Yeah, but
emphasis
it's
on a
like,
big point or a
yeah,
different
it's like
scene.
character death or something, not
Yeah.
like, oh, now we're gonna see the prince. It's like, okay, this prince
Yeah.
who we don't know, we don't care about, we don't understand anything
But
about
the
what's
issue
happening
is
right
there's
now.
no plot
Ooh.
twist. So
No,
Yeah.
no. There's no plot twist.
Exactly.
It's very predictable.
it's yeah, because it's like we were saying that Nehemia only comes in later in the book, and the only reason she's brought in is to be a suspect.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
She was the weakest fucking suspect.
Like she's literally come
like, oh my god.
like
That's like the one only little reveal is like when she like talks without an accent. That's like the only one moment where it's like, oh, okay, that was something revealed, but that was the only thing I can think of.
And
so there
even
was
then, it's like,
that.
yeah, she probably is really smart, and she just fucking was pulling everyone's leg because everyone thinks that she's unfortunately, a stupid foreigner who doesn't know the language. So she's just acting it out and playing it up and being like, yeah, fuck you guys, you're all pieces of shit.
Which I think
like,
I think Sarah J. Maas was trying to make a commentary there, but I don't think it landed.
No, it didn't land.
did not.
She would have been a
like-
cool protagonist. That would have been a cool
Yeah.
dual POV from Selena and Nehemia. That would have been a cool thing. But then you'd have to switch the whole plot. You'd have to just start over. Sarah J. Maas, start over. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Just start from the beginning, scrap it all, start again. Honestly, like,
It's just
at this
logic felt so not in this world. Like that task where they had to guess the poison. I still don't understand how she did it.
She cheated, right? The other guy gave her the answer.
Yeah.
But how was
Pretty sure that's it.
how was anyone supposed to do that? Like there was no logic to that task.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, know
Okay,
your
I
poisons,
guess.
like the flavor or your reactions to them, or you're gonna die.
I guess I just liked that task because like I can't keep up with like fight scenes. So for me, I was like, I can keep up with this
the
task.
only like interesting task. Like I finished this a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember now. I literally cannot remember fucking any of the not so terrible moments of this book. Like either a moment was really terrible or it's gone from my memory.
It's the only task I can think of is climbing up the castle, which to me there's a character conflict there when she goes to say what's his name. She's painted up until that point as this ambitious and like will do anything to win, and yet she comes in 18th. Bear in mind she's already bitched about before that she doesn't want to be middle of the pack. She doesn't want to be seen as middle of the pack, but she'll happily sacrifice that to go save some random strange boy who's her competition.
Yeah, her character is the weakest character out of the whole book.
Yeah, there's no inconsistency to her personality.
Were the only ones that actually had a decent character, and they were probably in it the least amount, which is so frustrating.
And Dorian gets screwed over by the fact that he has to obsess over Selena for the book.
Yeah.
And then he gets broken up with by the end of it.
And I would say that that's a common thing with her as well. Just to really, pick on her writing even more. Her side characters are always more interesting and better than her main characters. Always.
I mean,
yeah, but that's probably because she doesn't have to do a lot with them. Like they don't have to hold everything on their shoulders, and maybe she just can't do that. Maybe she just can't go that deep with a character, even one who's just supposed to be a self-insert.
Yeah, I feel like her side characters are always so much more complex than the main characters. Like in every series, they always are. That's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna stop my bitching, but I really felt like Dorian's such a complex character. You know, he's got his kind of issues with his dad, obviously. You know, he's the heir, so he's going to be king. He has to deal with that. His brother's clearly some kind of piece of sadistic shit that he hates. He's got, you
the
know,
brother
the
thing
weird
annoys
relationship
me
with
so
his
much.
mom. Yeah, the brother thing was stupid.
Because like it's presented as this ever looming threat, but nothing comes of it in this book. And as far as I remember, I don't think anything really comes of it in the series. It's a child's gun that never goes off.
Yeah. And that happened literally almost everything that happens in this book. That's what it is. Everything.
Well,
this book is completely redundant for the whole series.
It feels like setup. Like even the ending feels like it was literally just to get her into a certain position. And like I'm someone who like I feel like the first book in a series, especially fantasy, where it is so hard to commit, it should at least feel like a satisfying end. And to me, honestly, it doesn't.
Well, that's where Court of Thorns and Roses is better, because like that book, like I slogged through ACOTAR, but like by the end, okay, it actually got good in the last few chapters of that book. I was like, okay, I would read the second one, even though I hated 90% of this book. This was not the same.
No,
well, because it just ends with her.
This book actually good and decent, you would have to like take the next two. So, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. So I'm looking at them; they're like directly across from me. Get them, cut them up, re-put them together in a way that makes sense, and then you actually have a first book in a series. Because the three of them have absolutely like Heir of Fire. I think most of the way through Heir of Fire is when you actually get to the plot of the series. These first two books and half of Heir of Fire has absolutely nothing to do with the next 4 books. Nothing.
And I will say that I do feel like as the series progresses, this isn't spoilers, Celaena's character does solidify into something a bit more concrete.
It does, yes, definitely.
From what I remember,
I hope if you have that many books, your character gets consistent.
Yes.
But then at that point, it feels like this... It feels... No, but it does feel like this entire first book was just a writing exercise.
Yes.
And at that point, you've got a problem.
Prequel book. Yeah, this is a prequel book that didn't need to happen. That's what this is.
But then it's a prequel book that has a prequel book to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
and in the anthology thing, she's so much more badass than what she is in this.
This is the thing.
But couldn't you just cut out the whole competition, everything, and be like, oh, the king wants a badass assassin, goes gets her, and then you don't need this was unnecessary. Like bring her in, maybe like
you just cut the start of this book, cut it, stick it onto Crown of Midnight, cut probably the end half of actually cut the first half of Crown of Midnight off, stick the end of that together, and then have Heir of Fire tacked on the end. Then you actually have a first book, because everything else that happens, like the end of this book or like the middle of this book, the start of Crown of Midnight, it doesn't matter. It's all just nothing.
It's also just the fact they give her a fake name and fake alias.
Oh yeah, that didn't do anything.
She's this world-renowned assassin, so everyone knows who she is anyway. She's been in prison for the past year. So the king definitely knows who she is. So I don't see the point of that.
Yeah, but like half the people still call her Celaena, like her maid, like Dorian, like everybody calls her like in public. Like it's never like a big like.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
they don't hide it very well.
No.
But then that's the thing of there's no like secrets in this book. Everything's plain and simple. Mm. And I can't believe I carried on with this series with I feel like even back then, the reveal of who the murderer was should have like warned me off.
Because I know I'm surprised that I continued on, because I fucking saw that from a mile away.
Well, it's so obvious that it's Cain, but the issue is that it shouldn't have been Cain because it's obvious.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been a red herring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
thought.
I feel like she
logically.
didn't know who else to. Sorry, I'm just getting very heated about it. It's the fact of I think she maybe intended for it to be a red herring, and then she was like, "Oh shit, I haven't foreshadowed anyone else." Guess it's Kay.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh, fuck, Nehemia. We'll put it on her for a little bit."
Yeah, let's put it on the only non-white person.
And the only girl that she ever was like, hey, that girl's actually okay, but all other girls are bitches.
Yeah,
Well, it's also just the fact of I remember in interviews that like Sarah J. Maas referred to Nehemia as Selena's best friend. Were they even friends?
it
They were
didn't feel like it in this
acquaintances at
book.
best.
Yeah, definitely didn't feel like it in this book. And then,
And also just the fact that
Yeah.
Selena could understand that language. That felt like it came out of nowhere.
No, because she
learned
can do no
it
wrong. She's
in the mines because she's so great. And
she was there for
amazing
1
at
year,
that.
so she could obviously in 1 year just pick that up just
To
from
go
picking it
back
up
to
from other
the
slates.
billiards thing, when she's like
Oh.
trying to learn how to play fucking billiards, she's an assassin, right? She can like shoot an arrow through another arrow in the fucking bullseye, right? She can't hit a fucking billiard ball into a fucking hole. I was like, are you kidding me right now? This is the stupidest thing I've ever read. That was the point where I was like, okay, I might not be able to read this.
Look, I think all of us have lost any potential Sarah J. Maas blurbing a book for us, or
At this point, she doesn't have a fucking editor. I can tell you that from what I've read of her other books. They've given up on trying to edit her books because, oh my god.
Because they don't
Why?
have
Because
to.
the
People
fact-
are going to buy them no matter what they are, so they don't have to. Why would they waste their time?
Yeah, but
Exactly. Why have
Have
that
you-
additional cost?
did you notice that they couldn't edit her down her word counts, so they started printing her books on thinner paper?
Yes. And I know
In the later books, they're
text
literally
in
like
this
Bible
is fucking
pages.
tiny. Yeah.
Like the later books, they're like thin like Bible pages because they couldn't
And you
edit
could
her down.
definitely
Like I
edit
think,
that down because there's fucking nothing in those books.
well, a lot of it is just like
It's
I was going to say
triangle.
it's a lot of unresolved sexual tension, but it's not because it gets resolved every other page. So
It's like unneeded kind of just weirdness. Like, why was nothing paid off in this? Like, all she had to do was make out with Dorian and everyone would have been fine.
yeah, but she did make out with Dorian after the Christmas party, but then they break up at the end of the book.
Yeah, which I don't like. They weren't even really together. Like, they kissed when? Like,
Yeah,
No, it didn't
and
make any sense.
usually in the YA formula, they'd break up at the start of the second book.
Yeah.
yes,
It didn't
and
fit
then they have the tension. Yeah.
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 I think it was. I think she pushed this love triangle too much because there wasn't enough space for it. Because I don't know, Kale just felt really didn't even feel like a contender.
But the love triangle was the one thing that was like YA par for the course, though. Like maybe you couldn't have
That
a
was
hit
like, I
YA
think
without
the one
having a
thing
love triangle.
she really kept with was the love triangle. She was like, I need to have this because this is what every other book has. But she just doesn't know how to write.
The only obstacle to loving somebody is that somebody else loves you as well. It's the only obstacles love can ever face is two people being obsessed with you.
Here's the thing, though: she has that obstacle already written into the book's premise.
I know.
In the fact that she's working to like be the dad's assassin. That's an obstacle to why they can't be together.
Yeah, they don't act like it though.
Oh no, they're just getting it like kissing every chance they get.
Yeah.
And also they just like the fact that they're compatible because they both love reading.
Yeah. Selena, she foreign language master, archery master, reader, piano virtuoso. She does it all. What does she not do?
Anyone tries to argue that she is not a self-insert, I will question their intelligence because it's just
But why? Reading just didn't make sense. Like, if they could have had like a cool backstory scene of like her as a kid in the assassin guild, like had to like practice archery all day, but there was a secret book and it was like taboo and off limit, and it was her only retreat into like a
And it
normal
would have been great if
childhood.
it was like a really girly book, you know,
Yeah,
like a romance book, or like a book about a princess, or like something really girly to add that, like, I love princess dresses because I read this book as a prince, like about a princess when I was a kid, training to fucking murder people. Like, that would have been such a nice tie-in to make her character really interesting. But no, we just have this, oh, she's a great assassin, but she also doesn't like to see blood, but also she's like a great assassin, but she likes pretty dresses, but she's a great assassin.
Sorry, is the hypocrisy for me. And it's also just the fact of, where does she find the time? Like, growing up, where does she find the time to read? Like,
exactly, yes.
If she's this prodigy, yeah, if she's this prodigy by like 17, she did not have time to like read books for fun. I'm telling you, I was in university. I didn't have time to read books for fun.
No, the only time
my schedule must have been a lot less than her.
Yeah, the only reason I read in school is because I wasn't doing my schoolwork. Like, that's it.
And it's also just the fact of, there's not a single assassin that she has an issue with. Like, she's good at everything. Like, you could throw any weapon at her, she's like a master at it. Like, where's her drawback? Because at this point, I'm wondering why. But it's because we know that Arabin had other apprentices. What was the point if he had this prodigy under his wing?
Yeah, but also, if she's been like taken in by like the king and whatever, and they would fucking know. The assassins would know. Why is he not sending assassins to fucking hunt her down and kill her? That would have been interesting.
Well, they set that up in the book, so I don't know if that comes later, but they set up that she was like, oh, somebody turned me in. I was like, oh, is this where this book is going? No.
Yeah.
It's not going there.
Any resolution.
Oh,
also,
okay.
Sam.
Yeah, what the
fact that we mentioned Sam so offhandedly. What is the point? There is no point to him except to sell the prequel novella. That's literally it. There's no point to even name dropping him. Because she's clearly not grieving for him, because she's got Dorian over here, and then she's got Kale over here.
Oh, you guys are too much. This is why I had to do 2 live shows. I couldn't miss this. It's this commentary. Should we do final thoughts and segue out?
Yeah.
Yes, I think
we're just beating a dead horse, I think, at this point.
The horse is dead. Let's stop dragging it around the garden.
Yeah. So I will be back later tonight, whatever time zones are, getting the thoughts from Casey and Anna on this. So stay tuned for that.
Casey's just added, she was sad about Sam when she played the piano, because she's also a musical.
Oh yeah, because she can also play the piano.
Yes. Yes. She can do it all, you guys. I've never related to a character more. Badass woman, dress-loving character, just like me.
She's got like every single fucking hobby you could ever imagine. I think the only one that's not mentioned is art. Like, can she draw? Can she paint? Or did I miss that?
Oh, probably. She probably can.
Artist as well. God.
Foreign language master, like puppy mom. She's got it. So she's like Barbie. She has all the different like outfits.
Well, she's fantasy Barbie. She is literally fantasy Barbie.
She is. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
They're nice. Well, Kelly's comment's not coming up on StreamYard, but I see it in the YouTube side. Sabian's comment. Oh, wait. Oh, puppy in the kennel. What? Yeah, I know, right?
It's the fact that Dorian's also a dog breeder. What prince is breeding his own dogs?
Yeah, and that they're like fucking cute little fucking dogs. I'm like, these would be hunting dogs. What the? This makes no like it literally is like I'm all for doing whatever you want in your fantasy, but you have to have it make sense. It needs to make sense. Like at least if he's like taking the dogs with him or something, like have a personal dog and then have the hunting dogs as well. Like that would make sense. But
The
like
dogs also
fact
came
that he
out like
just-
of left field, like, oh, all of a sudden there's dogs. Okay. I don't remember that being talked about before that
they
scene.
were at the start, I think. They were at the start, but I'm pretty sure he says at the start, like, oh, careful, they'll attack you, and then they don't attack her. So they're meant to be hunting dogs. So why are they fucking like Labradors or whatever the fuck the book is meant to be?
I don't even remember how they described the dogs.
I know she uses a
think
real world. She literally names a real world breed. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, she did. I totally missed that.
I don't remember. I feel like I always see it drawn as like a golden retriever or something.
Yeah, it's something like that.
And I'm like, that is not a hunting dog. That's not the kind of dog that he would have had. Because I'm pretty sure at the start when he has the dogs with him, he's like, oh, don't go near them. Like, you know, they're...
Oh, yeah, they were at the beginning. Okay, my bad. I remember now.
And then he's like, oh, careful. And then she's like, oh, I love dogs. And then the dogs are like chill with her. And it's like, okay, sure, that makes sense.
Michael again coming with a piano joke. How dare.
No, because she doesn't understand what structure is. But
No. The story didn't feel like a bad structure, in my opinion.
No, it definitely didn't.
Plot structure, who is she?
Plot, who is she?
Yeah, it's true. This book, it didn't know what it wanted to be, but whatever it was successful, at least financially, commercially.
It wanted to not be like other books.
Yeah. That's a great slogan. Throne of Glass, not like other books.
Yeah. And I like have to say that like as much as I'm shitting on it now, I have to remember that at one point this was my favorite book. Like
I was a stan.
Yeah, I was a stan. I was fucking into this shit. This was my life. Like this like her whole world. I will say it was I wrote my book out of spite, but it was because of these books. Like it was Throne of Glass and it was Akatar, and that is the reason that I got into writing. Is because I was so pissed off with what happened with them at the end.
I mean, I will give you a little lore drop on me. There may be somewhere, I don't know if it's still floating around, but there was Throne of Glass fan fiction.
I never went that far. And you didn't finish the series.
That's the thing.
At least you snapped out of it before I did. You didn't go the whole like fucking 9 yards.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for coming on to our channel. Even though I feel like I forced you here against your will, I was like, this live show's happening. I don't care.
I don't think we're going to get invited back.
No, probably not. No,
everybody is always welcome on this train. So, do you guys have anything you'd like to introduce or say before we wrap?
I guess if you want, I'll plug my book as everything that I wanted Sarah J. Maas to do in her series that she never did is basically what I wrote into my book. So there you go. If you're
an amazing tagline, Emily should make it.
Do like an anti-blurb.
Yeah.
No, not really. I would say subscribe to my channel, but I don't know when you're going to get a video on that, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, I'll have a live stream for the Worldwide Write-a-thon. That's about it.
Oh, yeah. Worldwide Write-a-thon. Whoop, whoop.
Oh, and then camp. Great.
Yeah, that's how it works. As far as the book club goes, actually, our June pick is Inkheart. I'm going to start reading it tomorrow after these live shows are all done with. So that's what's up next, and what's after that? July, there is going to be
Raven Boys.
No book club pick, and then August is Raven Boys. Correct, yeah. So that's where this train is headed. And yeah, again, thanks to my co-hosts, and we will have a part 2 later tonight with different co-hosts. And yeah, wait, last of the comments? Totally wish. Buy your own tape. Okay, yeah, that's how it is. But I'm gonna roll the outro when I find the button. Bye.
Stand well back from platform edge. The next train, platform 5, does not stop here.